With that down, let's move on to main topic number 1. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Rachel Hughes, who writes, "Hi, John. On your recommendation, I went out to see Onward this weekend, and I wasn't disappointed. Unfortunately, I looked at the box office results this weekend, and it didn't do nearly as well as most other Pixar movies do. Why do you think this really high-quality movie didn't do as well as others?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, Rachel. And yes, Onward is now in theaters, and it's a really good movie. One of the top Pixar movies? I don't think so, but a really, really good movie nonetheless. And unsurprisingly, it did take the top spot at the box office. However, it did not do as well as we've come to be accustomed to being of a Pixar movie doing on its opening weekend. Let's take a look quickly here at the opening weekend box office chart. Starting in at number 1, Onward makes $40 million. Now, 40 for a lot of films is great. $40 million opening for a lot of films is great. But not so much for Pixar. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. Invisible Man continues to hold in strong, making another $15 million. Remember, guys, this was a movie that cost $7 million to make, and they keep climbing up. They keep making more and more money. The Way Back, which I was supposed to see this weekend and I couldn't go, so Ann and I are going to run out to see it tonight. But by all accounts, great movie, original movie. People keep screaming, "We want more original movies!" And then they don't go support them and makes $8.5 million at the box office. Sonic the Hedgehog makes another $8 million, continuing its really impressive run. The Call of the Wild makes another $7 million, doing better because apparently word of mouth on it is it's a pretty good movie, so it's hanging in there. Still going to lose the studio a lot of money, but still it's hanging in there. But Rob, the topic here, though, is Onward. Onward makes $40 million. Good for many movies, absolutely. But in context, that means the only other Pixar movies in history to have a lower opening weekend, there's just 2. One of them was Toy Story 1. Going all the way back to the very first Pixar film, really, that's in our consciousness, is Toy Story 1. That one made less opening weekend. The only other Pixar film to make less was, a lot of people's opinions, maybe the worst of the Pixar movies. I actually kind of liked it, but anyway, it was The Good Dinosaur. The Good Dinosaur, which a lot of people don't even remember that movie. That one made less. But aside from that, Onward becomes the lowest grossing of all of these films. And it is a shame. And it's a shame. And we'll get to the question about why did it open that low. But just let me emphasize again why it's a shame. This is a really good quality movie. This is a movie that is, of course, because it's Pixar, it's got smiles and laughs, and it's enjoyable, and it's entertaining. But beyond that, it has some real heart to it. You know, I was mentioning, Rob, when I saw the film, I saw it with my wife, Ann. Ann describes herself as ugly crying through the movie because it really does a good job of speaking to the heart, and it does a really good job on that level. And I thought it was, again, not one of Pixar's best, but a really good Pixar movie nonetheless. Nonetheless, it is the third lowest opening, other than the first Toy Story and Good Dinosaur, which nobody remembers, lowest opening film ever. I think there might be a couple of things that are contributing to this. Number 1, and we talked about this like a month ago, Rob. I don't think the people at Pixar really knew how to market this movie. And I don't blame them a lot for that, because as somebody who has seen the movie, I'm not sure how you market this movie. It was a strange one to market, because even at D23, they showed us like a 7-minute opening, and I was in love with it. But then I saw the trailers and like, okay, the trailers just don't capture that magic like them showing us the first 7, 8, 9 minutes of the movie did. And of course you can. That's a little bit of a different thing. So I think on that level, they didn't win. I also never felt like they put as much effort into the marketing of this movie as I've seen them put into other movies as well. So there's that. There's also the question, because of the era we're in right now, that some people are raising, maybe it was the corona thing. Maybe it's the coronavirus that did it. I don't know. It still feels kind of early, especially in the U.S. markets for a lot of that. So I personally, Rob, am leaning over towards, because it's a good movie. It's getting good word of mouth. It's got good reviews. But I don't know how excited I would have been had I not been at D23 and saw the opening 9 minutes of the movie. If all I had to go on was the trailers, I'm not sure I would have been totally as excited to see it as I was. So I'm not sure. Rob, it comes in at number 1. We understand that if you or I made a movie that opened to $40 million, we'd be popping bottles. But it is the third lowest in Pixar's thing. What do you attribute that to, do you think?
Well, first of all, the virus that shall not be named, I think that has caused a little bit of a downturn in movie going. Anybody who wants to be in a closed environment, I think that might have been a factor, not the biggest factor, but a factor. But as you pointed out, even I've loved Pixar movies since pretty much day one. This film has a bit of a high concept. I mean, yes, the fantasy world and the brothers, but what they're trying to achieve is a little wacky. And it's a little difficult to convey. And I think when you do convey it, and you do convey what's actually going on in this movie, I think it might have, believe it or not, I do believe that it doesn't have, say, the drawing power of Forky. As far as Pixar is going to go, it's a little weird. And look, I don't know if that's the case, but like you said, the marketing on this movie was not. I felt that that's something you and I are always keenly aware of, is how movies are marketed. We sort of look into that. Our radar picks it up from the very earliest posters or trailers that drop. You and I think about movie marketing a lot. I think we pay more attention to it than other online pundits. And if we're saying that, I mean, I agree. I think the marketing for this movie, both of the movies, Pixar has another movie coming out this year that I'm really interested in seeing. And that too is a little bit of a wacky concept, but it's about a jazz musician who ends up with a unique problem in his life. And I'm really excited for that. But even that, I feel like they just figure that, well, these aren't going to have the drawing power of a Toy Story. But then I think back, look at Coco, man. Yeah. I mean, my God, what a movie that is.
But you raise a great point. You raised a great point that another aspect here is that how often have we seen Pixar trying to market one of their movies and marketing another one of their movies that's coming later at the same time? And the feedback I've been hearing and reading is that people are a lot more interested in Soul than they were. And maybe it's because of, like you pointed out, that high concept of what we're getting in Soul. But people seem to be more interested in Soul than in Onward, and it may end up being a better movie and a more interesting movie, but this is the first time I can remember Pixar marketing two of their movies at the same time. Instead of focusing all their energy and marketing on Onward, they were also saying, oh, by the way, guys, we've got this other one coming, and more people are, instead of looking at Onward, they're like, ooh, look at Soul. We've never seen anything like that before. Do you think that had much to do with it?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think people know. I didn't know much about Soul until, I don't know, was it a trailer they showed or a clip they showed? Whatever it was that I saw, because I didn't know much about what the movie was about. But when I saw that trailer, that whatever it was I saw, I'm like, oh, I gotta see that. Also, because I'm a jazz music fan. But this movie didn't. This might sound weird, but it didn't seem like a Pixar movie. It seemed like an animated film from anyone else. And while obviously it had the joy of a Pixar movie, it certainly had the star power of both Chris and Tom Holland. It felt like someone else's movie. Maybe people don't know it's Pixar. Like I don't know how they couldn't, but it just felt like the whole land of make-believe, of fantasy, and to me it was great, but maybe that was part of it too. I don't know.
All right. Well, question here is, guys, listen, it did come in number 1 at the box office. A lot of films would love to make 40, but for a Pixar film, it was pretty low. What do you attribute the lower than normal performance for a Pixar movie, considering it's actually a really good movie? What do you guys think? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right.